Students often say that part 3 of the speaking exam is the most challenging. This is not surprising, because in this part the examiner asks for your opinion and wants to test your ability to reason in English. Hello, this is Rustam from Ace IELTS and welcome to my channel. I created this channel to help you ace the test and get the perfect score so that you can follow your dreams. In this video, we're going to look at 4 most common question types that you may need to answer in part 3 of the speaking exam. And these are agree-disagree, compare and contrast information, discuss cause and effect, or causes and effects of a problem, and make predictions or speculate about the future. Okay, let's begin with the most common one. So, the first common question type is agree or disagree. As you may know, in part 3, the examiner will ask you a few questions in which they would want to test your ability to express your opinion. In other words, they want to see if you can effectively agree or disagree with the topic. And let's look at the possible question here. People used to help others more in the past than they do now. Do you agree or disagree? One way to begin your answer is by saying I agree or I disagree, right? But you shouldn't overuse these phrases. Knowing other useful phrases to begin your answer is very helpful. And here's some phrases that you can use to introduce your opinion. You can say something like, I personally feel that, or for me, or if you ask me. If you strongly agree, then you may want to use one of these phrases. I'm convinced that, or I'm certain that, or there's no doubt that. On the other hand, if you disagree, you may use one of these phrases. I totally disagree. I would say the exact opposite, and I'm not sure if I agree. So, here's how you could have answered the question that we've just seen. I'm certain that people used to be more helpful than they are now. Well, at least in my country. You know, people seem to value friendship and relationships more, and thus were much more kind and supportive of each other than they are today. In part 3 of the speaking exam, you may also be asked to compare and contrast 2 things. For example, do you prefer to live in a house or an apartment? So here they ask you to compare 2 things, living in a house with living in an apartment. I'd like to clarify one thing here. To compare means to look at the similarities between 2 or more things, and to contrast means to look at the differences. In part 3 of the speaking, you may also be asked to compare 2 places. For example, what is the difference between living in a city and in the countryside? Or you may even be asked to compare 2 groups of people. For example, do men and women have the same attitude to shopping? Or you may even be asked to compare 2 periods of time. For example, what changes have you seen in the past few years in your town? To begin your answer, especially if it's part 3 of your speaking test, you may give a short, 1-sentence general introductory statement. It may sound something like this. I believe there are a few major differences between this and that. So this will give you some time to think of what you can say next, right? So, let's say you're answering this question. What is the difference between living in a city and in the countryside? I believe there are a few major differences between life in a city and in the countryside. On the one hand, living in a city offers many opportunities to its inhabitants, such as educational, health and job opportunities. On the other hand, city life can be quite stressful. Life in the countryside, however, can be very relaxing and peaceful, though it may get boring at times. By the way, here's some useful language for comparing and contrasting. Next, let's move on to our third question type. Discuss causes and effects. The examiner may also ask you to discuss possible causes and effects of a problem or a given issue, right? So, you may be asked a question like this. What are the main causes and effects of water pollution in some countries? So, to help you answer a question like this, let me share some useful phrases with you first. So, to introduce the causes, you may use the following phrases: due to, owing to, and as a consequence of. To introduce the effects or results of the problem, you may use these phrases: consequently, as a result, and will result in. So, now as we know the phrases, here is a possible answer to the question: what are the main causes and effects of water pollution in some countries? Well, I believe that water pollution mainly happens due to the use of chemicals in agriculture and farming, as well as waste disposal and oil spillage in seas and oceans. As a result of these, many countries around the globe have a shortage of clean drinkable water, which in turn results in many diseases. Finally, we've come to our last question type, and this one is make predictions or speculate about the future. You know, the examiner may also ask you to talk about the future and make some predictions about how things will change. How wonderful it is, isn't it? So, for example, you may be asked a question like this: what do you think the future of education will be like? And here's some helpful phrases that you can use to begin your answer, right? You can say, it's likely that, I foresee that, or my prediction is that. So any of these three phrases will be good. So now let me try to answer these questions. So what do you think the future of education will be like? Well, my prediction is that education will be mostly online in the coming decades. And formal education as we know it today will lose its value. What I mean by this is, learners will be more likely to opt for online education because of its convenience and affordability over face-to-face learning. Also, this will result in more personalized learning, as learners will be able to choose what they will want to study and what they will not. This brings me to the end of my video. So in this video, we've looked at 4 common question types that the examiner may ask you in the part 3 of the speaking exam. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel for more valuable content. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at info.aceielts@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next videos.